Good afternoon, everyone. This is Reading for Charity again. This time round, we have the Caine books. The image I've got there, which is Heroes Die. It was followed up by the Blade of Tyshal, then Caine Black Knife, then Caine's Law. So there's four books in it, and this is what to say about these books. So for starters, they are super violent. There is an absolute ton of swearing in it, and where the books start off relatively straightforward. So book 1 and book 2, Heroes Die and the Blade of Tyshal, are relatively straightforward. Books 3 and 4, the Black Knife and then Caine's Law, they just go completely off the deep end. There's a little bit of an issue of how to top the last book, and Matthew Stover has a flair towards the dramatic, and he likes leaving his books on cliffhangers, but he has the same problem that a lot of kind of science fiction series have, which is okay, so you have saved X. Now, next season you have to save X plus 1. So I always use Enterprise as a good example of this. You know, the first season they save Earth, the second season they save the galaxy, the third season they save the universe. So what do you do? Where do you go after you finish saving the universe? Well, you have to save the whole of time, reality, and existence itself, otherwise it's meaningless. There's a little bit of that going on in the Caine's books. The first two, where he's just... So, I really like the idea. I really like the idea of there being this kind of dystopian Earth where they've discovered a parallel world. Now, the way it's kind of set up makes me feel like it is almost esports. That the dystopian world still is the dystopian world, but this parallel world is actually really cyberspace. It's just a gigantic MMO in the style of, you know, like Ready Player One. That the people, you know, joust and work in. If you die in one, you die in the other, and I really liked that idea. Now, as the series went on, it became less about that, and by book 4, basically, they are fighting the unraveling of existence itself because of the gods turn up and stuff. What was a really good setup for me in Heroes Die, by the time it gets to the end of Caine's Law, I think has gone so far off the deep end. It spoiled it for me a little bit. I really enjoyed the first couple of books, but the second two, I think were a mess. Honestly, I do. I really like the style of the first book in particular. So Heroes Die, I really enjoyed the style. It's third person narration through most of it, but when it comes to Harry, it's all the time. All the times I can remember, it switches to first person, and he's basically narrating what he's doing for an audience. So the whole idea being that they go into this parallel world to create entertainment for the people back on Earth, back on, you know, our dimension plane. They seem to flip-flop between the ideas. So it feels like he's narrating what he's doing. He's basically a Let's Player at this point. It's like a YouTube Let's Player, playing a really violent video game and swearing repeatedly while he's doing it. He's effectively PewDiePie in the first couple of books. Now, this could be the books could be a very, very clever deconstruction of kind of violent 80s action movies. You know, so you could see Caine being played by a very articulate Arnold Schwarzenegger, for example. It's that kind of style of OTT violence, OTT swearing, you know, back in the golden age of action. But again, by the end of it, it's gone completely off the deep end, and you know they pass through any form of sensible action by the end of the series. I don't want to harp on about it, but I was disappointed by the end. I genuinely was disappointed. it's one of those series where the power level just continually gets ramped, and the main character is godlike. So you just the writer has to throw yet more silly scenarios at the main character in order for them to be challenged, or take away what they have. Um, which Stover doesn't really do. He doesn't really take away much from Caine. He really just kind of keeps throwing bigger and bigger and bigger bad guys at him, essentially, or more and more and more bad guys at him. Till right until it gets to the end where he's just like, fight gods, all of them now, just blow shit up, swearing. So yeah, it's. I really like the first couple of books. The first couple of books were great. By the end, I was a bit meh, nah, not really enjoying this so much. So should you read these books? I think the first couple are great, but they all finish on cliffhangers. There's nothing neatly wound up. So you might get frustrated and go and read the third one and the fourth one, and I don't think those ones are worth reading. I genuinely think that these books would actually do pretty well being turned into a TV series or a film or a series of films. I think they lend themselves to the action movie kind of format really, really well, and I think you could do more of a deconstruction of, violent entertainment. Like Running Man. Like Running Man was a really good both setup for violent entertainment and a good dissertation on violent entertainment. This feels like it was kind of initially inspired by Running Man and then just went crazy. So yeah, read the first two definitely, and if you want to read the second ones, go for it, but meh. I personally wouldn't bother reading the second two. I really like the first two though. So I mean that's an unusual conclusion to come to for a series, but yeah, I think that's fair. The first two were great, the second two not so much. So yeah. So that was Caine's the Caine books. Next up we're going to do The History and Social Influence of the Potato. 860 pages about potatoes. Until then, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. Good afternoon.